Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the latest episode of Bear Does Film Club. We're doing another double bill this week, and our topic is Ain't the Future Neat? A look at utopian themes within sci-fi. It was a slightly difficult choice this week.
Yeah, it was, and I think that comes down to the topic itself of utopia, because it's a slightly problematic concept in that often a true utopia cannot be realised without some sort of iron fist and a dystopian element hiding behind it.
Utopias tend to have a dystopia in the background.
Yeah. Like extreme rules, like break the rules and you'll die and things like that. So it's been an interesting one to think about.
Yeah.
What actually our interpretation of what a utopia and even a dystopia can be. So with that, should we start, James?
Yeah. So what's the first film you brought to the table?
Where should we go first? I'm going to go with one that probably makes a little bit more sense, because I've got, of my two choices, one is a more literal interpretation and one is a little bit, it's not what you'll expect. So I'm going to go with the more literal interpretation, and to start with I'm going to go with a film within the Star Trek universe, because Star Trek is probably the closest that will realistically get to
a true utopia.
A true utopia, in particular on Earth. Obviously, yes, there's other elements going on around us in a larger existence in the Star Trek universe.
I think my second film is going to beg to differ.
Fair enough. But I think, as far as humanity itself, Star Trek is Star Trek because humanity on the whole has started to work together. Currency has been eradicated. People do the jobs that they want to do because they want to do them. And so, ironically enough, for a US film and TV property, it heavily pushes true communism. Now, the lightest and most fun of all of these films, and therefore potentially the best interpretation of the Star Trek utopia, and it even mentions some of the things that I've just talked about, is Voyage Home.
Like, probably one of my favourite Star Trek films.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an argument it's the best.
And it's the funnest film to describe and boil down to its bare essentials as well. A bunch of people travel back in time to steal a whale.
Yeah. Potentially, a bunch of people cause the extinction of the whales so that they can stop the extinction of whales. So, for those who haven't seen the film, it opens with Kirk and crew returning from the escapades of the third film, Search for Spock, where they have to help a reincarnated Spock find his soul again, which has been hiding in Dr. McCoy. And at this point they have a Klingon bird of prey because of the events of the second film, Wrath of Khan. No, third film. Yeah, they steal it in the third film, don't they? And with that, I suppose it's a utopian double bill, really, actually, in itself. In that, in the third film, they try to. The story is about terraforming a dead planet into Eden, I suppose, using technology, and of course things go slightly awry. In the fourth film, they return to Earth, and Earth seems to be under attack by a giant ship that has come from who knows where, and it's sending a very, very, very strong communication signal towards the oceans, to try and speak to a very specific type of whale, which has been extinct for some time. So Kirk and crew, knowing how to travel in time, they did it quite a bit in the TV series, slingshot themselves around the sun and end up in San Francisco, which is the home of Starfleet in the mid-80s. It's the lightest of the Star Trek films. It's essentially a comedy.
Does allow you to. It allows them to take the ideal of like this utopian future, right, and have him look back upon a potentially less than utopian days. Yeah.
Because to them we are still savages, really, and they do cover the aspects of a lack of currency and excuse me, that everyone lives in a harmony and this, that, and the other, and that they've come back to help the whales, although the whales really are going to help them. As I joked at the beginning, in theory, as these were two of the last breeding pairs of humpback whales in the film, Kirk and crew actually are responsible for the extinction of, or at least partly responsible for the extinction of the humpback whales.
If I remember correctly as well, we have a subplot running through that's a commentary on like nuclear weaponry and holding on and having that in the first place. Correct.
Yep. And as I say, it's very much a comedy. It's light-hearted, and something I found out recently. Part of the reason that it is in the vein that it is because originally it was meant to be an Eddie Murphy film.
Really?
Yeah, really. Apparently, Eddie Murphy was obviously when this film was made, Eddie Murphy was pretty much as big of a superstar as you could possibly get, and he's a huge Star Trek fan.
Oh, so it was meant to be an Eddie Murphy Star Trek film. It wasn't an Eddie Murphy film.
No. It was an Eddie Murphy Star Trek film. He'd requested to be in Star Trek, and they were beginning to make this film anyway. And then they wrote a character for Eddie Murphy, who basically, because the character wasn't ever quite big enough, Eddie Murphy's people turned it down, and that character was changed into the cetacean biologist that Kirk ends up seducing, as is his way.
So in the Eddie Murphy film, we would have had a Kirk seducing Eddie Murphy and taking him back to a future.
Well, I mean, one can only hope that would have been the case. Yes.
I kind of want to see that film.
Star Trek is always a boundary breaker. First on-screen interracial kiss in American TV history. So hell, why not? Why not have an aging Starfleet captain chat up a younger black man? That really would have caused a stir, but that's what Star Trek does. And I think outside of outside of just the films and the TV, like within their universe, actually Star Trek is almost the idea of a utopia, in that like they do that. They do break boundaries. They do have interracial kisses when it was almost illegal, and they do try and push not an anti-American, but a quite un-American ideology at times.
But it's still Star Trek's still that future that we all kind of look to and strive to, isn't it? It's still that. One day if we can get that together, maybe. Yeah. We could have that future.
Even within Star Trek, it takes more misery for us to get there. We have to have World War III, and a truly horrendous World War III. For us to get to that point, obviously in a different film, First Contact, where the person who invents warp drive, as far as humanity goes, only happens to invent it because it's come out of the ashes of such terrible things.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the issue with Utopia. That's even if there isn't that iron fist or that dystopian hiding in the background. It's usually to get to the utopia, something horrendous has to happen first. But yeah, my first choice, Star Trek Voyage Home, a childhood favourite, and it's still a great film now, still worth watching. Obviously it's dated a little bit because it's set in the 80s, it's made in the 80s, it's got that 80s humour, it's got that 80s aesthetic, so it won't be for everyone's taste, but yeah, it's an interesting an interesting film.
Good choice.
James, your first choice.
So my first choice is, you know what, I'm gonna shift the one I was originally gonna go for as my first choice, and go for my second choice, because I think in regards to societies that are truly utopian, I have picked another big franchise film like Star Trek.
Okay.
From a much more recent franchise in the cinema world, if not in the overall world.
Go on.
I have picked Black Panther.
Oh, yes.
Because I think Wakanda is truly a utopian society, and even throughout the film, when the darker side of it is discovered, our hero succeeds over that, to keep it a utopia.
Yes.
The whole we see the whole nation of Wakanda, right? We see this truly kind of future. The cities are futuristic. The people live together relatively in harmony. Even like various factions that don't necessarily agree with each other have still come to a means of peace.
Yeah.
It is also at times a really fun James Bond style film.
Yeah, I get you.
There's some great kind of espionage set pieces in the middle of the film. It's just a good. I think it's one of the better of the MCU films, at least. In fact, that it strikes its own chord a little bit. It has its own distinctive.
Yeah, I think it's
feel
in the
and
upper,
vision.
It's definitely in the upper half. I think it didn't quite hit as much as it did for other people, for me, and I don't think it was meant to either. In many ways, it wasn't made for me. But yeah, it was a great film. Although even then, it does deal with that element of because sometimes the dystopian element of a utopia is that feeling of superiority, and obviously that's the real story of Black Panther and Killmonger, cousins who are polar opposites because of their situations.
Yeah.
And the Wakandan people, whether they mean to or not, have become arrogant. So although they embrace each other within Wakanda, even Wakandans outside of Wakanda are looked down upon a little bit.
It's a tale of how Wakanda has become isolationist, and through it has to learn to open its to try and make the world outside an equally better place.
Yes.
Because if it can be a great place on its own, or it can share that greatness with
the rest
of people
of the world
who need it.
And I think it's a really good tale. I mean, the director is a incredible young director. His work for what he's done at his age is outstanding.
I'm still I need to correct that and watch his other films. I'm still yet to see Creed and
Creed is. I mean, obviously, hopefully, we'll have an excuse in a future double bill to go into detail with Creed.
Yeah.
But Creed is a near perfect film, especially within the context of what the original Rocky films
I've also never seen a Rocky film.
Then I think we need to rectify that with a review series potentially.
Yeah, maybe.
We're going off.
Yeah, Bear Does Rocky coming soon.
Bear Does Rocky coming soon. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean I mean, he's obviously an incredibly talented person, but I think Creed is that good that it will probably be his masterpiece. And obviously, I hope he's got more coming. I hope he finds a way to excel it. But for me, Creed is something very, very special. And I think that was part of the reason that I was ever so slightly underwhelmed with Black Panther. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't that I didn't think it was good or anything like that. I thought it was excellent. Thoroughly enjoyed my time watching it. I saw it in while I was living in Korea, and of course there is a section of the film that's shot in and set in Busan, which is a city in the south of Korea. And so seeing it in a Korean cinema full of Korean people, where they were getting excited because of it being somewhere that they were familiar with as well, that was another thing, another level. But yeah, I think I had unrealistically high hopes after Creed, because it's definitely a contender for film of the decade for me. The first Creed film. Black Panther, great choice, really good choice.
Okay, if we move over to your second choice then.
Oh, we flipping back to me this time.
I usually sorry, my mistake, forgetting the format of our own show there.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so my
amateurs, eh?
Yep. My second choice is Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets by French director Luc Besson. Always makes interesting, if not, has great films in his back catalogue, but has a lot of near misses as well.
Yeah. I'd say if anything, they're all near misses that we retroactively go back and realise that he got it right.
Yeah. Like I have a soft spot, and this may be evident from some of my previous choices as well, of films that don't necessarily hit but really go for it.
Yeah.
I love a film that puts everything into it and potentially falls a little flat at the end, than a film that's just fine.
Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. And this really did go for it.
It's again visually it is intense.
Oh yeah, but I mean that's what you expect from a Luc Besson sci-fi.
Yeah.
I mean from Luc Besson as a whole, really, his even his more grounded back catalogue, where he does just pure action films, like The Transporter or something like that. He is so stylish.
Is The Transporter Besson?
The first one is, and then he's the producer on the rest of them.
Did not know that.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, I'm sure it is.
But yeah, Valerian's about two secret agents, would you say?
Yeah.
Working for an organisation within this big kind of galactic kind of... Well, it's a planet that's a massive civilization full of people from all over the galaxy. It's a city of 1,000 planets.
Yeah.
And it's seemingly a utopian society, but the military has been doing some dark things to keep it that way. And the agents throughout the film discover that darker side to the place and try and rectify it. And you have a good villain performance from Clive Owen.
Excellent villain performance. Cracking actor anyway, so you don't really expect anything less from him.
Some people say the leads are miscast. I agree with potentially half of that. I think Cara Delevingne is potentially the right choice for her part, but Dane DeHaan is probably miscast.
There's no probably about that. I think he was drastically miscast. There's nothing against him as an actor, but he was so wrong for that. However, Cara Delevingne, perfect. I think for what it is, that film, and the part that she has to play, she was wonderful in it. And I think had the casting of the male lead been better, and I think had Suicide Squad not been such a mess, then actually I think we'd be talking about Cara Delevingne a little bit differently now. A few years on, so I think she might have grabbed a couple of extra interesting roles, and run with it. She's definitely got the potential to be a lot better than we think she is, if you know what I mean. So
yeah, let's say the whole film is an absolute feast for the eyes.
For the eyes,
yeah.
Senses.
Definitely, if you kind of want in almost a B movie, but with a very, very high budget.
Well, I mean, it's not even necessarily that it had a ridiculously high budget, because Besson's one of those people who knows where to spend the money correctly.
He is, but it didn't have a small budget by any stretch.
It didn't have a small budget, but I mean, like, if it were a different director making it.
It had a higher budget than the average B movie.
It had a higher budget than the average B movie, but I think if it were a Michael Bay film, or I mean certainly a Jim Cameron film, and and God forbid a Zack Snyder film, then you'd be talking the GDP of a small country to create the same effect. I mean, Luc Besson, and I think that's one of the things with Luc Besson is he is a sort of an underrated master in a way, visually speaking, he's I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was another film I saw in Korea. It was in, and we watched it in a 4D screen.
Ooh, I bet that was an interesting experience.
Yeah, well, it was when some of the 4D screens had been refitted, and it technically wasn't in 3D, so they didn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't one we watched in 3D, but it was one of those ones with the wraparound projections on the wall, and whether it was Besson directly, had realised that was going to be a possibility in certain markets, or whether it was the team that had been hired to retroactively do it. They did such a good job with getting the sidewall projections, and then obviously all the movements and stuff like that as well. It was incredible. So as much as like certain bits missed the mark, it was one of the more enjoyable films I've seen in the last 5 years, certainly.
Yeah. So, what is your second pick to the?
Well, as I said, this one is going to really, really play with the definition of what a utopia is, and I'm going to go with The Matrix.
Oh.
Yeah. Because, as one of the semi-villains points out, the guy that eats the steak, I can't remember his name.
I know, SciFi?
SciFi, yeah, I think it is, yeah. Why would you want to live outside the Matrix?
Yeah.
The Matrix itself is a utopia. No one goes hungry. There's no real crime or anything like that. It's all just it's a wonderful simulation.
I mean, there is real crime though, because we live in the Matrix. In theory, the Matrix is here, so crime still. It might not be.
Is it real though? I mean,
yes.
Because they don't necessarily explain what happens. Like, say, if you get murdered in the Matrix, do you
I assume that's your battery running out.
Yeah, is it the programming going that, like, actually the body that's feeding the energy for this massive machine, the body's broken, So if you die in the Matrix, and it does mean that you're dead anyway, is it actually really because your body was going to die anyway, and the Matrix just gives your story an end? So
I would assume that is the case.
So
Like,
so yeah,
it's a fair point.
I'm yeah.
That
Because you remove yourself from the Matrix, and what do you get? You get that weird white protein gruel, and you have to dress in rags and run from these terrifying mechanical spider monsters.
But it's knowing the truth, isn't it? That's the key point. Like, can you live with if you know, can you live with a lie?
Yeah, and I think for some people, definitely, and I think that obviously further down the line, going to the third Matrix, that's where that balance comes. That people have the option of staying in the Matrix because it's easier.
Yeah.
Because, like, you come out of the Matrix and there's a toil, you have to fight, and because at this point, whatever, assuming it is still Earth and it's not on an alien spaceship or something like that, whatever piece of rock that it's all sitting on, it's not farmable, it isn't really livable, so you're always going to live a lesser life outside of the Matrix, although a free life, but still.
But couldn't you strive to take the Matrix? As in, isn't that the...
Well, no, because it's like, I mean, obviously the convoluted stories within the Matrix, but Neo happens over and over and over and over and over again, because it's part of, like, the Neo that we see was the 20th, 50th, 100th Neo that there'd been.
Yeah.
It's a recurring cycle. At some point, there will always be a chosen one because of something within the algorithms of the Matrix when they're breeding the people that they breed to run their batteries.
Rebellion is as much of a program as...
Yeah, and it's never going to go away. And so every now and again they have an uprising, and every now and again it's and each time it's ever so slightly stronger, but each time it gets beaten down, and so they have to come to a balance. And at the end of the third film, there is a balance. It might not be a balance that people want, but it's or think they want, but it's a balance. People have the choice of living in the Matrix and being provided for, or living the life outside of the Matrix, but having to fend for themselves and having a sense of freedom, but also it's never going to get anywhere.
But man, they have the freedom to hop in whenever they want as well.
Well, in theory, yeah. So if you do want that steak, because you miss it, because you're just having the protein grill, then why not?
I've been thinking recently of rewatching the Matrix films, because it's been a while and I really want to reevaluate them.
Especially with the fourth one on its way.
I might see if the 4K box set's on offer anywhere and pick it up and give it a watch. Maybe we'll do a Bear Does Matrix series as well.
You see, I think we wait until they come out.
Yeah.
Because one of my theories, and I know you completely disagree with this.
This is not going to happen.
Is that the John Wick series is within the Matrix, but we'll discuss this when we have Matrix in review, when the fourth Matrix film comes out, and as it's currently still slated, the fourth John Wick film comes out on the same day. Yeah, because they're going to be two sides of the same film.
No, they're not.
Well, we'll see, won't we? We'll see. So that's all 4 picks. So we've got Star Trek Voyage Home. We've got The Matrix. Preferably just the first one. But obviously I think if you want to...
Yeah.
If you're insane and you want to triple bill it, then why not? And then your 2 picks were Valerian.
Yep, and Black Panther.
And Black Panther.
I'm leaning towards Voyage Home and Valerian.
Really?
Yeah, for
Why?
a campy fun time.
Possibly. Yeah.
I think if these 4 films were put on the table, and I was told you've got to watch 2 of these back to back, they might be the 2 I would lean towards picking.
Yeah, I get you.
And they're both. I mean, all the films we've discussed are sci-fi, but they're both spacey.
Yeah, I suppose there is, and I think actually, oddly enough, Matrix and Black Panther do fit together in a way as well. So it's a. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to agree with you on that one.
Okay, yeah.
What order?
Voyage Home first.
Are you sure?
I think so, yeah.
Mainly
because I'll be honest, I'll take any excuse to watch Voyage Home. That used to be when I was a kid. That used to be my Saturday morning / afternoon go-to film. I would watch it over and over again.
Certainly, as a kid, it was my favourite Star Trek film. I think as an adult, maybe not. But I think it's still up there.
It's my favourite Star Trek film. I acknowledge it's not the best Star Trek film.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
We have a friend who watched Voyage Home as an adult, and he just didn't quite get. I don't think it worked its magic on him as well as it worked on us as children.
Again, I think it's a bit. I think it's its era as well as we alluded to. It's an 80s action comedy, really, that just happens to be set within the Star Trek universe.
Yeah.
Whereas the other Star Trek films are very much Star Trek. But yeah, I mean, personally, I think I'd watch Valerian first. I don't think it's as good as Voyage Home.
And then Voyage is a nice palate cleanser at the end.
Well, I also think that Valerian's a bit heavier.
Yeah, you're potentially right.
So I think if you're watching it of an evening, and I'd rather watch the heavier one first.
Yeah, I'm with you actually. I think it's the right call on this.
So we're going to go for a double bill of Valerian, followed by Star Trek Voyage Home, which brings us to the most important part of the show.
Cinema snack.
Cinema snacks. So obviously we've discussed this in previous episodes. We've had the good old days of pickles in the variety of egg and onion, and in later times pickled onion and pickled egg flavoured popcorn.
Yep. The pork scratching Haribo.
The pork scratching Haribo, something you can still only get in this country.
And I think,
otherwise, as you pointed out, in some foreign shops in different countries, you can get it.
I think, if I remember correctly, you're discussing a snack today that I myself have never actually partaken in.
Yes, yeah, it's not one that happens that much anymore because it was one that was popular during the time of intermissions in films.
Yeah.
Where obviously, famously, people
the ice cream tray.
The ice cream tray. People would walk around and take the ice cream around. Now, in certain northern towns, instead of ice cream, because it was already cold enough up in the north anyway, they bring something warm round for you instead. And so, depending on exactly what region you lived in, the ingredients would change slightly, but they would bring round a giant shepherd's pie or cottage pie if you're not using lamb, and they'd walk the aisles, and of course every good northerner keeps a spoon in his pocket, and you take a single scoop of the pie to warm your insides up a little bit, so that you were ready to watch the second half of the film.
I have vague recollections of it because intermissions were slightly still a thing when I was a toddler, so I have like a hazy first cinema trip memory of it, but not it's not something I can say I've ever really.
I mean, I think like as well, like where you're from, Crewe. It's technically in the north, but it's also not really that northern. It's more of a Midland sort of thing.
I take offence
so-
at that.
Well, I mean, it's right on the border.
I mean, we do have oatcakes.
You do have oatcakes, so in Crewe, I imagine potentially it was you had the classic oatcake with a little cup of Bovril to wash it down with. Whereas, yeah, further north, it was all about the shepherd's pie or the cottage pie. Yeah, so but if cinema snack history there, sadly, I doubt it will become a thing again. The intermissions just don't happen anymore unless there's special screenings of either very long films or films for toddlers.
Maybe Tarantino can bring back
the pie.
Yeah.
Hashtag bring back the pie. And on that note, that's the end of this week's episode.
Yep, we'll say goodbye and we'll see you next time.
And remember, if you have your own double bill suggestions, please put it in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Thank you very much. See you again, James.
See ya.
Bye.